Call this meeting of the City Commission to order and ask you all to join us, as is our pattern, with a moment of silence. Thank you. If you could all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Commissioner Kilgore?
Present.
Commissioner Knight?
Present.
Commissioner Belcheck?
Here.
Commissioner Perdue?
Good afternoon.
Commissioner Sassi?
Present.
Mayor LeGrand?
Yep. And if our interpreter could come up and explain her role for the public, that would be great. We interpret from English to Spanish and Spanish to English as needed. You need the microphone.
My name is Sandra Nickel, and I will be interpreting for anyone who is in need of interpretation from English to Spanish and Spanish to English. I come from the Hispanic Center, and I'm glad to serve you. Mi nombre es Sandra. Estoy aquí para ayudarles a comunicarse de inglés a español y de español a inglés. Si me necesitan, con gusto vendré aquí al micrófono para poderles ayudar, y vengo del Centro Hispano. Gracias.
Thank you. This brings us to our first opportunity for public comment. This is on items which are on the agenda for today for the City Commission to take action on. Is anyone wishing to speak to items that are part of our official business? You can come up to the microphone and give us your name and discuss the topic. There will be a general chance for public comment at the end of the meeting on non-agenda items. Seeing no one, I will move us along to our approval of minutes. Can I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor of approving last meeting's minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Brings us to petitions and communications. Mr. Clerk.
Communication received from Wesley Wilson regarding the First Ward vacancy.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Marilyn Sattler regarding the property at 2450 7th Street Northwest.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Tim Boltheis regarding recent remarks from Mayor LeGrand.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Shiona Joy Nadovsky regarding accountability for Daquan Johnson and his family.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Brooke Osterman regarding her resignation from the Grand Rapids Housing Commission.
Referred to committee on appointments.
Communication received from Nathan Henschel regarding his resignation from the South Door Corridor Improvement Authority.
Referred to committee on appointment.
Communication received from Jack Hoffman, Rapid Board Member, regarding future state and local funding support for public transportation.
Received and filed.
Communication received from Devon Meredith regarding an appeal challenging the fee estimate of a FOIA request.
Received and filed. And that brings us to reports of city officers. And I'm going to go a little out of order from the printed agenda and let our city attorney have the first bite at the apple.
Thank you. Just briefly, I wanted to recognize and appreciate one of our legal interns, Tashari Bolton, who is in the audience today. She's been with our office for several months. She's a local Grand Valley student getting ready to graduate in a couple of weeks here. Her and Audrey Bennett have been interns with the legal department, and we're very grateful for their service. Thank you, Tashari.
Thank you. We love interns. And that brings us then to, if you could, Mr. Clerk.
Yep. Comptroller's warrant report for the period of February 10, 2026 through March 2, 2026 in the amount of $55,740,619.02 and the monthly travel report.
Received and filed.
Treasurer's report for the period of February 11, 2026 through March 3, 2026.
Received and filed.
City Manager's report, follow-up actions regarding February 24 discussion of officer-involved shooting and next steps.
City Manager, if you want to speak to this.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and thank you for your inquiry from the dais on the 24th, Commissioner Perdue. And without any objections to the Commission, I did follow up on request for information and submitted that in the report for your packet today. Again, since there is an ongoing investigation by the Michigan State Police and subsequent review by the Kent County prosecutor, this report does not discuss or detail the incident in which relates to the shooting of Mr. Daquan Johnson. However, I have been asked to review the officer-involved shootings over the past 5 years or so. And based on that, I have talked to Interim Chief Trigg, who is here this evening. Chief Trigg, where are you? There he is. To help us retrieve some data summarizing the shootings that have occurred, officer-involved shootings that have occurred over the past 5 years, such as time, location, number of officers that were present, whether shots were fired by individual first or not, or whether officers were charged, whether the subject was known to be armed prior to dispatch, what type of de-escalation attempts had occurred, what less lethal force was used, and the length of time that the investigation took place. So the department is compiling this information for our review. Again, the scope of this work does not include reinvestigating matters where that have already been investigated by the Michigan State Police, or determinations being made by the prosecutor, or where employee discipline has already been determined. We hope to provide an update in April, very likely during the Public Safety Committee meeting in April, since we will also be presenting the budget at our regular CAL meeting this morning. We can make time on CAL that day if there's a desire to discuss it with the entire dais, but right now it's planned to go to Public Safety. Secondly, we were asked to benchmark and do an analysis of our pursuit policies, and specifically the use of canines. And the Office of Public Accountability, Mr. Davis is here, will help us in that effort, but we'll also work with the police department, and we will identify other agencies to see what are the relevant comparisons and best practices and understanding the practices of the other jurisdictions to see how our policies are similar or different. And I hope to provide an update of that work sometime in the month of May. Then lastly, we were asked to look at our CAB process, the Civilians Appeals Board. And this one will be a little bit more nuanced. It's going to take a little bit more time. So we will be assessing City Commission Policy 800-2 of the Grand Rapids Police Department Civilian Appeals Board, and evaluating feedback we have received from both CAB members, from members of the police department, from the Office of Public Accountability Oversight, and see if there are any permissible changes that can occur by law and labor contract. We will definitely be working with the City Attorney's Office on this matter, because any matter that affects the rights of police officers when they are disciplined, this particular policy is also protected through the collective bargaining agreement. So that would, any potential changes would require us to negotiate those changes with the police union, respective labor unions at the time of labor negotiations, or if they will be amicably and willingly to do it before the contract expires. We anticipate this work likely being updated in June or July. I just wanted to close by reminding the Commission, the public, the department of, while there is focus on these areas, these three areas of policy work, there are a lot of things that we have done together to improve policing and community relations in this community. I've listed them in this report. There are too numerous to go through, but there are several things that promote de-escalation, more transparency, the adoption of our foreign nationals policy, the improvement of the deployment of munitions, for example, as well as the civilianization of several sworn positions that were previously occupied by sworn officers, as well as the efforts to improve recruitment and diversify the workforce. That ends my report, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager, and certainly thank you for engaging on this. And I think it maybe goes without saying, but I'll say it out loud. I know that everyone on this dais is committed not simply to noting past improvements we've made to public safety, but to continuing to improve our public safety obligations to the community. And I also want to thank command staff from our police force, but also the Office of our Office of Public Accountability for engaging in this conversation. And so we have work ahead and we have analysis ahead, and I appreciate you taking a moment and outlining that, City Manager. That brings us next to our consent agenda, and for the public's, to remind the public, these are matters that passed out of committee unanimously or were not removed for further discussion by any member of the commission. So I take a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That brings us to adoption of ordinances. Our first ordinance, City Clerk.
Ordinance adopting an amendment to Section 2.507 Rates, Rules, and Regulations of Chapter 34 Thermal Energy Franchise of Title II Utilities and Services of the Code of the City of Grand Rapids, provide for elective thermal energy electrification and decarbonization options.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Belcheck.
Yes, thank you. So this is the ordinance to allow the Vicinity Energy, which runs our steam district and the boilers that do that, to make some adjustments. We are the regulating body on that. So on February 10th, 2026, the Committee of the Whole discussed this change to the ordinance regulating as the regulating operator of the city's thermal energy system, which is required to enable the operator to offer customers alternative generation options. To amend an ordinance, the ordinance must first be introduced to the City Commission to authorize it for publication and schedule for adoption. At a subsequent meeting, not less than 7 days after the ordinance has been published, the City Commission adopts the ordinance, and the ordinance is not effective until 30 days after adoption. So on February 24th, 2026, the City Commission authorized the publication of the ordinance and set today, March 17th, for consideration. If adopted, the amendment will be effective on April 16th. We ask that the City Commission approves this because this will allow for the electrification and decarbonization of their thermal products. And this would be in addition to the existing wording and ordinance as a new subsection number 10. The official wording is in the packet and attached.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, colleagues? This is a fairly technical amendment to update, and thank you, Commissioner Belcheck, for going into that for us. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of the...
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Purdue,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight,
Yes.
Commissioner Belcheck,
Yes.
Commissioner Kilgore,
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi,
Yes.
Mayor LaGrand.
Yes. And that moves us along to public hearings, of which we have two. And not seeing Ms. Renero yet. There you are. First public hearing is to consider a brownfield plan amendment for the Knapp Hills redevelopment project at 2070 Dean Lake. Go ahead.
Me?
Yep.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. This is a brownfield plan public hearing for a project by Ryan Wheeler, who's in the audience, and I'll give him an opportunity to talk a little bit about his project. It's 38 multifamily townhomes, so this is specifically targeting housing TIF across $12.3 million in total project costs. This is $9.25 million in construction costs, which is important because about $2 million of the $9.2 million in construction costs is dedicated to our inclusion plan aspirational goals. Specific to the housing TIF, there's a little bit over $2 million in eligible activities. Most of that is infrastructure alongside the potential rent loss over a 12-year period of capture. And they're expecting to start construction this summer. Ryan, do you want to come up and say a few words? Welcome, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for your consideration of this project. This is the second townhome project that we've done within the city of Grand Rapids. The other one was Michigan Meadows at 2233 Michigan, which was back in 2017, 2018. That one also included a brownfield TIF, but was ahead of the housing. That one was more related to, we built a city road. Same sort of infrastructure investment, but this one, 20% of the units being offered below 100% AMI. So really creating a different type of housing that's not typically built within the city of Grand Rapids. That's going to allow for more families with these 2 and 3 bedroom homes. So happy to take any questions and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. I had one. If I did my math right, this looks like a remarkably efficient project. You've got almost 60,000 square feet of space here, and your construction cost only came in at a little over 9 million. Am I right? So that's
how
like
we do it.
$150 a foot. It's outstanding. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had my math right. That's really, really impressive. So, also, gotta love the design. All those people are going to have shared walls, which is going to cut down on their long-term ownership costs for heating savings, and it looks like a really attractive design. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Great. Well done. Any members of the audience wishing to comment on the project? Okay, that closes the hearing on the first project. Ms. Renero, if you want to take us into our second brownfield plan amendment, and this is for a project at 3538 Lake Eastbrook.
Yes, this is roughly Eastbrook and 28th Street. This is with Scott Weirda. And we recently saw another project from Scott, Breton and 44th. So similar kind of idea here, where we're taking a parking lot, we've got a little bit of demo, and we're putting up 4 multifamily buildings across 132 units. We've got $25 million in total project costs, with about $23.4 million in construction costs. 3.6 of that is dedicated to the aspirational inclusion plan goals. And this is, again, a housing TIF ask. A majority of the eligible activities here are related to the financing gap. We're setting aside 45% of the units, which is about 60 of the 132, for households earning 95% to 100% AMI or less. And this is a term that goes out the full brownfield plan for 25 years. Anticipating, again, construction start of this summer. Scott, would you like to come up and say a few words? He's bringing his cheerleader, Jared Balka.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Jared Belk with Warner Norcross, working with Scott on this project. I'll just say a few words. Appreciate your consideration of this request. Scott and his team, as Sarah mentioned, came forward with the Brent Meadows project that, with your support, worked well. They were looking for other opportunities to help address the housing shortfall, found a great infill site. This site was the site of the former Orbit Room. I know that rings a lot of bells in people's memories. So Scott and his team were excited to try and bring this opportunity forward. I'll hand it off to Scott. I can answer any of the technical stuff, but he's the brainchild behind this. So thank you for consideration.
Good afternoon. Appreciate everyone's time and interest in continuing to work with us in this program. As Jared mentioned and Sarah mentioned, the project that you were a party of and with us on Brent Meadows is well underway now. We've got 4 of the 7 buildings with the footings and foundations already in. So the building's gone, the parking lot's gone, and we're starting to go vertical, hopefully next week, actually. So that's moving along. We really want to kind of stay consistent with this program and meeting needs. The site of the former Orbit Room was humorous to me personally in getting that, and it from the years of having darkened the doorstep on occasion. But we think it's a great site. Lake Eastbrook Boulevard's been improved already with the sidewalks and the landscaping and infrastructure. So it really does lay out quite well. Been working with National REIT that owns that property, approached them, and we have this under contract and looking forward to move that forward this late summer, early fall, if approved. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments, colleagues? No? Commissioner Perdue?
Hi, thank you. I don't believe you commented on AMI. Can you talk a little bit about affordability and a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's targeted between 95 and 100% AMI. About 46% of the units are being reserved for that, and including the 25-year time period of the brownfield TIF.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Any members of the public wishing to comment? Commissioner Womack?
Kent County Commissioner Robert Womack. I just want to thank the Diaz for looking at this project and making sure that the average median income is being respected. Seeing that and the fact that it's going to be in there for 25 years is just very, very important. And just thank you for your due diligence on this. As he mentioned the Orbit Room, I also was like a house DJ once at the Orbit Room for many, many years. So just seeing that that vibrant community that's still a part of the city of Grand Rapids, this is the type of investment that is also going to help the businesses in that area, is going to help retain more our young people here in Grand Rapids that's looking for affordable housing or whether to vacate the city. But just once again, on the average medium income, just thank you and thank Commissioner Perdue for asking about it. I saw it on the board, and it's always important that we look at that when we're talking about affordable housing. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now, and that's towards the bottom. Thank you.
Hello, friends. Mark from Grand Rapids. On this project, I can really care less about the AMI and AMI for this. My question is about the safety and concerns with this project. We are talking about 28th Street. And 28th Street, over the years, has been the most dangerous street in the city of Grand Rapids area. Combine that with a lot of shopping in that area, and it could bring problems. So you better think about this, because I don't want anything to happen with the residents who's going to live in these units, knowing that 28th Street in the East Beltline got a lot of nut jobs driving vehicles at high rates of speed, trying to beat traffic lights and everything. You might see some individuals that could get hurt. That is my concern about that. Other than that, the housing is needed here. There's no question about it. It's just the safety that I'm concerned about. Thank you.
Seeing no further public comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Russ Olmsted, West Side, Grand Rapids. I just was wondering if we could get a little bit more detail. I was trying to look it up real fast before this closes, but I wasn't able to get my phone to cooperate. What is the, when we're talking about 95 to 100% AMI, I think it would be helpful for the community to know what that actually means as far as the amount of income per family for single residents, so that we can gauge our input towards the project. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Renero, I assume you have those numbers in your head.
It's in the packet too, just for reference. But we've got a breakdown between 1 and 2 bedrooms. So the annual household income estimated between 95 and 100% AMI ranges between $70,775 up to $85,200. And then the rents accordingly range between, again, 1 and 2 bedrooms from $1,896 up to $2,395.
If I can ask you to clarify that a little bit, is that household income? And if so, does that presume 1 or 2 earners? Do you know?
When we were looking at household income, we were looking at 2-person for the two bedrooms and the 1-person numbers for the 1-beds.
Okay,
making
but
sense.
area median income, the number you cited as $70,000, that relates to what?
Household income.
Household income?
Yes.
Okay.
Forgive me.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Seeing no further comments, I will close the hearing and refer this to committee of the whole. That brings us to public comments on any item that was not on the agenda up for city action. So if you can come up, introduce yourselves, tell us where you are from, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. And Mr. Hoffman is first. And Mr. Hoffman's not first, he's second.
Santi, make sure it's on.
Thank you.
It's on. Slide, sorry.
Yes, my name is Sidney Deems. I'm going to speak about that river out there. It seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of people don't care about it like they should. But that river is very important to Grand Rapids. At one time, that river used to be the main fishing places here in this country concerning bass, largemouth and smallmouth bass, the numbers of them. But more than bass, this river is an inlet to our Great Lakes, and poisoning that river by not taking out as much chemicals out of our refuge, out of our water treatment plants, is going by what the government says, the federal government says. The federal government set their limits to where it gives the companies, the enterprise, it gives them a place where they don't have to work so hard to, to get rid of these chemicals right. What needs to happen really is that our private businesses that deals in these chemicals, one day gonna have to start cleaning their own as they come outside their building. Put a cleaning filtering system outside their building before they put it into the city water treatment. It takes a load off the people. And there should be a second filter, a final filter system put on that water treatment plant that discharges those chemicals and whatever into the Grand River. Because federal government do not make it a zero tolerance. This should become as close to zero tolerance as we can get it. Because all you're doing is poisoning those lakes out there. You put so much in there every time you dump it, just building up, then the lakes ain't gonna be no good, the fish ain't gonna be no good. People can't eat fish, from the lakes or from that river. I got a lot of meals. I fed my family, and I and my siblings ate a lot of meals out that river over the winter time. We was to catch fish, freeze them, and our mother would cook them for us.
Sir.
You can't do that now.
Sir, I know you're visually impaired, so I'm just going to tell you your 3 minutes came to an end, but feel free to wrap up your thought.
Like I said, you can't do that now because of the way the governing bodies is not bringing themselves to a point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jack Hoffman, I'm on the Rapid Board for the City of Grand Rapids, appointed by the mayor. My comments are attached in the communications, also Communication 7 with some of the backup data. But I wanted to give my take on the future of state and local funding for public transportation. The 2025-2026 state transportation budget subsidizes rural roads and the trucking industry at the expense of the cities, the state, and public and personal transportation. Rural County Road Commissions receive $444 per capita in road funding versus $195 per capita in road funding for cities. Public transportation receives $27 per capita. MDOT calculates it needs an additional $280 per capita just to keep state trunk lines in good repair. Trunk lines received an additional $18 per capita in the final budget. Heavy trucks cause 95% of pavement damage in the amount of $6 billion per year and pay only $600 million in state road taxes. On the other hand, cities far exceed low-density areas in terms of economic productivity. Dense urban areas produce $90,000 per capita in gross domestic product versus $30,000 per capita for low-density counties. State transportation funding subsidizes economically unproductive densities at the expense of economically productive densities. And that's one of the main reasons the state transportation funding is in perpetual crisis. Rural counties isolated from dense urban areas are likewise in financial crisis. High urban densities are essential to economically successful cities, counties, regions, and the state itself. A healthy, dense urban community requires a healthy public transportation system. A plausible scenario for the future is that state trunk lines continue to deteriorate to the point where the trucking industry itself is willing to contribute to a fair share just as a matter of economic survival. Then will be the opportunity to address fair share for dense urban areas as well. Until that time, dense urban communities can be supported by passing Representative Morgan's House Bill 4210, which restricts proceeds of the sales tax on transportation products to transportation purposes, similar to the way in which House Bills 4180 to 4183 recently restricted use of the proceeds on the sales tax of motor fuels to transportation purposes. HB 4210 would generate an additional $25 per capita for public transportation. In the meantime, the residents of cities and counties of the West Michigan region should continue to show their recognition of the importance of public transportation to the regional economy. Thank you for your time.
My name is Hal Fruit and I live downtown. Now that winter is back, I think this is kind of appropriate. Over the last few months, when we actually had quite a bit of snow, we know that the snowmelt system on Monroe Center is sporadic. There are parts of it that work, and they're great, and there are parts of it that don't work. The parts that don't work become a hazard, because you're walking down the sidewalk, you assume there'll be no snow, and here's a patch of snow and ice. I talked to DGRI the other day and asked if the ambassador is responsible for salting that. The answer was no. Who's responsible for that? I have no clue. Well, we have snow again. It's not going to stick, so you've got about 8-9 months to figure this out. But that needs to be salted and taken care of. I don't expect the snow melt to be fixed. It's ancient. It's older than, well, some of us are in this room. It's been around a long time. But it does need to be salted. The next area. Amphitheater opens up in less than 90 days. A lot of concerts, a lot of people coming downtown who have never been here before. I have yet to see any communication or traffic plan for what's going to happen for us downtown residents who have to come home. I've heard through the police department that there's talk about closing Monroe and Market when the amphitheater and the soccer stadium are open. That's all well and great. How am I supposed to get home? I live downtown. I'm not the only one who lives downtown. We need a plan for this. I brought this up 3 years ago. We still don't have a plan that's been made public to those of us who live downtown. I'm going to suggest, as I've suggested before, X crosswalks. I know the mayor is smiling at me. He knows what those are, and I know some of you also do because I've brought it up before. The other thing is, who's going to pay for all the officers that have to control the traffic? That's going to be a huge cost. And where are they going to come from? I'm sure a lot of them would enjoy the overtime. It's good money. My suggestion is remote control on the traffic lights. You got cameras up, figure out how to set up a remote control where one guy can work 3 or 4 traffic lights from a monitor. It may save some money. But what I'm getting at is a plan. And for those of us that live downtown and are going to have to drive through the traffic to either get home or to go shopping, we'd sure like to see what the city is planning and how they're going to take care of us who live downtown. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allie. I'm here again to speak on the murder of Daquan Johnson. Tomorrow will mark 1 month since he was killed and executed in our streets by a GRPD officer just minutes away from where Patrick Lyoya was killed. And within that month, we have watched the now ex-chief of police lie, deflect, show us edited footage, and attempt to change the subject while a black man was arrested before the killer cop was, which history is repeating itself again because activists were also arrested before Christopher Scher was for murder. We haven't received really any transparency. Again, we're shown edited footage and told what we should think about the footage that we're seeing with our own eyes. Then we see the unedited footage of a bystander, and we watched as these officers shot him multiple times while a dog was gnawing at him. The news published his death certificate before his mother could even see that information. And we've had 12 officer-involved shootings since Patrick Lyoya was killed. We don't know the names of these officers. For all we know, they could still be patrolling our streets. People are afraid, and we're trying to find answers. And this could be so much more easier if we've had this transparency since day one. Michael Buxton would have never gotten arrested because we would know who this officer was. And the fact that our city, our county, our prosecutor and the chief of police, who's no longer our chief, they expressed more disgust for a man being arrested for putting out information that he thought was factual versus the person who killed someone. Like, there's more disgust towards that. Where is the outrage from our city officials? I've been coming here since 2020. I came here after Patrick Lyoya was killed, and I'm trying to figure out what has changed since Patrick Lyoya was killed. What positive changes have been made? Because to me, I just see more people being shot at by the police. We talk about all the violence in our community, but we need to address this violence that is being perpetuated by the police department. Lead by example. Stop committing acts of violence. Stop harassing people. Stop pulling people over for suspected stolen cars, then turning around and be like, oops, sorry, we pulled the gun out on you. Your car wasn't stolen. It belonged to you. That's traumatizing. And you expect people to function every day with this trauma? Also, I'm very interested in Mark Washington's report. It would be nice if we had a little more clarification on where we could find that, because I would love to review that. And I know I'm running out of time, so justice for Daquan Johnson, justice for Riley Doggett, justice for Samuel Sterling, justice for Patrick Lyoya, justice for Hank Weimer, and justice for Joey Nagel, and free Kai. Stop arresting these activists before you arrest these killer cops.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, respectfully, his name is Daquan Trey Johnson, not DeQuane, but Daquan. So when you address him, please say his name appropriately. Secondly, to Mr. LeGrand, this is the second meeting I've attended, and your lack of concern, your lack of attention span when the people speak about what's going on in the community is very disheartening. It shows that you really don't care. The lack of answers in the last month that I have received says a lot about our elected officials. I feel I deserve more than what I'm getting, because if it was one of your children, a month later, how would you feel? When all you know is the same thing you know from the day it happened. What are you really gonna do as elected officials so that another mother isn't standing here asking you and watching some of you blatantly look away and do nothing as our children are being murdered by the GRPD? And yet, we're drugged through the ringer. My son's information has been made privy to the public before it was made known to me. At what point is that okay? At what point are my rights, my son's rights, where are ours in his death? What are you guys going to do so different that you didn't do with Lyoya, with Doggett, with Sterling? At what point do you guys implement real change and take the community serious? When it's one of your kids? Is that when it gets serious? When it happens on the panel amongst a group of close friends? What are you gonna do to get me and Daquan and every other mother justice?
County Commissioner Robert Womack. I want to talk about a few things. When we talk about the area medium income, we're talking about the household that sets that about $70,000. But when we're talking about those single homes, I think we should be talking more about per capita as you move down to $35,000 to $39,000 per capita. So I would just hope that in the future some of that can come up when we're talking about those single homes. Also, just here to support the mother today as she's looking for some answers. She really wants to know. It's taken longer for the name of the officer to be released than, I believe, in the Patrick Lyoya situation. So she has a lot of answers that she has. Thank Mark Washington and others for moving to that review, and just ask that you keep this mother's tears because she isn't the only mother. And we know this with the Michigan State Police Department and with the prosecutors, so we don't know how that investigation is going to turn out. But even as it gets to an investigation, there's probably some things that a mother should know. So I would just ask that people remember her passion, her tears, that they aren't just hers alone. All of the other parents that have dealt with law enforcement officer-involved shootings have also stood stagnant with those questions. So as you review those, just keep her in mind, and we're just looking for some of the policy changes that will bring the police and community together. Very thankful for the people that spoke out, because it's been in our community for years, over 50 years. This is a baton that was handed down to us from our leaders in the 60s, to our leaders in the 70s, to our leaders in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and that baton is kept being held down and handed to the next generation of activists, and leaders, and it took us this far just to get a review. But we just hope out of that review there will be some true change. Also asking that after you hear Mother speak, that we'll get more commissioners. We had a few that spoke to the concerns of the community on police issues. Last time we were here, just hoping we'll get to hear a little more from everybody on how we can move forward on that issue. And thank you for continuing to put housing out there as an issue. It's not a magic wand we can shake and solve it, but thanks for keeping that issue at the top. And we're very thankful that the review has began, but the community still won't be happy till there's actual change. So just asking you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bryce, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm here today to join Daquan Trey Johnson's family in demanding the release of the unedited body cam footage to name, fire, and convict the officer who murdered Daquan. The murder of Daquan Trey Johnson is nothing new when it comes to GRPD's record of institutionalized violence towards black and brown people in this city. So many have died. Hank Weimer, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Joey Nagel, Patrick Loyola, Daquan Trey Johnson, all killed at the hands of GRPD. And in fact, in just the past 4 years, GRPD has shot 12 people. Even more than that have been brutalized. Let's not forget DeAndre Given had GRPD dogs maul his face just a month before Daquan was murdered. Over the past 4 years, activists and community members have come to these very meetings demanding accountability from city officials. Your response has been to jail the activists and let the killer cops walk free. You place cops on administrative leave and in many cases have not even named, let alone fired and convicted them. At the same time, our city officials have raised the already massive GRPD budgets by roughly over $12 million in just 4 years. Just this year, ICE has been terrorizing our streets, leaving families traumatized and terrified of being kidnapped. While this city commission has refused to take even one step towards adopting the most basic sanctuary policies that would make it more difficult for ICE to operate, instead, all the people of Grand Rapids have gotten are excuses and empty promises. We, the people of Grand Rapids, here today, are united by the fact that we are tired of the lack of accountability, the violence, the brutality, and the excuses. Switching out Chief Winstrom for somebody else or turning up the dial on police funding doesn't change anything. It doesn't keep us safe. Our people need a new system where we have a right to live in dignity and not be harassed and murdered on our streets, where we have a right to housing, to health care, to stable access to quality food, to trusted people from our communities to collectively resolve conflicts. That's what real change in public safety looks like, not GRPD's occupying forces. And we know that real change comes from the people behind me here. We're here to let you know that we will not rest until there is justice for Daquan and for every other victim of police violence in the city. And we know that during that time, you're just going to sit on your hands and shift any blame for any accountability. But you should know that the people of Grand Rapids are going to grow this struggle until you've got no choice but to meet these demands. Justice for Daquan and every other victim of police and ICE violence. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Osborne. I come before this commission on behalf of the Civilian Appeals Board and as chair of the board. I had a number of remarks prepared today regarding proposed recommended revisions to policy 800-02, but Mr. Washington's beat me to it. I'm very encouraged to hear that these policies are being reviewed and that the change which is being asked for, that affirmative steps are being taken towards that. So I applaud this commission for looking into that. I look forward to the continued discussions, and I offer my services as a chair, as member of the Civilian Appeals Board, and as an individual citizen within the city of Grand Rapids to those ends. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana. I want to talk about what happens in this room after public comments. Because every time this community shows up, every time people stand here and bring their grief, their fear, their anger, you all are given a moment to respond. And too often, some of you use that time to center yourselves. You talk about how difficult this position is. You ask for patience. You question our presence, why we show up now and not in the in-between. If it takes something this horrific to bring this many people into this room, and when we get here, we're met with defensiveness, distance, and no meaningful change, then you've not created a space worth returning to. So no, this isn't the moment to, in front of Daquan's mother, mind you, to return the burden to the city's residents, where the purpose of this space is to carry that burden, at least in this moment. I believe the city officials are failing to respond in a way that makes showing up even matter. Because this is a pattern. Harm happens, the public responds, you ask for patience, and then nothing changes. In fact, what many of us are experiencing is escalation, not just inaction. And we're beyond the point of naming this as not an isolated incident. We already know that. You all know that. But listen, you were elected you were not elected to manage our reactions to harm. You were elected to reduce it. And right now, when this community expresses real, justified pain and is met with tone policing, defensiveness, and self-preservation, is it leadership or is it ego? Ego cannot hold accountability. So here's what I'm asking for clearly. Commit publicly that in your closing comments, you will use them to reflect back what you heard from the community, name at least one concrete action you will take, and provide a timeline for when that action will happen. Not general statements, a specific action with a time frame every single time, because anything less than accountability is just performance. I do want to acknowledge commissioners who choose at a minimum to hold space. Occasionally, I have seen some of you look out to the public and say that I hear you, and that matters, but hearing us is the baseline. The community is not asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to be accountable in a way that actually centers care. And if your response to our pain continues to be defensiveness instead of change, then you're serving your ego and not the residents of this city. And also, flexing your past improvements did nothing for Daquan and his family.
You're past your 3 minutes, ma'am. I was just letting you wrap up.
Okay, cool. Thanks. You heard me, though.
Hello, my name is Amelia, and I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I am here today, joining the rest of the community, and in particular the family of Daquan Trey Johnson, to demand the release of the body cam footage and to name and indict the officer who murdered him. The people of Grand Rapids are sick and tired of watching our community members get killed. Hank Weimer, Riley Doggett, Samuel Sterling, Patrick Lyoya, and now Daquan Trey Johnson. These are just a few of the victims at the hands of GRPD. In the past 4 years alone, GRPD has shot 12 people. This is not normal. Yet this very government body sits here and treats this as if it is anything but a crisis. A member of the community that you are supposed to be serving was murdered by a department that you are in charge of. You all sit here and try to make it seem like this was an issue of tactics. Former Chief Chief Winstrom is trying to say that this isn't a political issue. This is very much a political issue. When your officers have no regards for life, when they murder innocent black community members on our streets, you want to go on with business as usual? That is not going to happen. We are not going to let you get away with this anymore. We are here, not here asking for your help. We are here to tell you what is going to happen next. We, the people of Grand Rapids, are going to hold this body accountable. We are tired of the excuses. We are done with your empty words, and we are united in this struggle to get justice for our people. United in our need for real safety for our people, not this terror inflicted by GRPD and ICE. We need a system that actually meets the demands of working class people and that affords people the right to live with dignity. You spend $9 billion on these criminal officers, and you criminalize the people who actually contribute to this city. Shame on every single one of you. I want to say this again. Release the body cam footage. Fire the officers responsible for Daquan's death. The people here are going to fight until the demand is a reality. The days of ignoring us are in the past. We are going to be so loud that you will hear us in your sleep, when you wake up, and at work. The more you ignore us, the louder we will be. If we have to, we will make every street in Grand Rapids echo our demand, and they will sing his name, and we will make it buried in your conscience. And you all, too, will say his name, Daquan Trey Johnson.
Hello, my name is Erica Alexander, and I am here today to address my point of contention concerning the Grand Rapids Police Department versus the Black community. In order to solve the problem, we must get to the root of the problem. We should start with abolishing the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery and involuntary servitude in 1865. It left a critical exception allowing slavery as a punishment for a crime. Here we are in 2026, still operating under outdated laws. This law was passed during slavery over two centuries ago, so it's no coincidence that law enforcement can be traced back to slave patrols. Aside from racial injustice, this 13th Amendment is what's precluding officers from being held accountable. We're aware that justice never applied to people of color. We live in a society where the systems were designed to keep us oppressed. And it's time that we rewrite and modernize these laws to reflect justice, equity, and humanity. We are tired of law enforcement abusing their authority and targeting African American men, not only on the streets, but within correctional facilities as well. This pattern of injustice must be acknowledged, addressed, and stopped. However, in the interim, we demand justice for Daquan Trey Johnson. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Martha Cooper. I live on the northeast side of Grand Rapids. It's been a while since I've been here. I've got a couple of things. It's really hard because so much of it is very important. I come once again talking about housing. I did a little math. I understand there's going to be, between the Chamber of Commerce and the Coalition to End Homelessness, a $100,000 study to talk about between, the rent, the rate of rents in our city. And I listened to the brownfield developments, and that there are homes going in for $90,000. 17% of this people in this city live underneath the poverty line. 17% of our population. If you take it to kids, it's 25%. I wanted to say that because these people are here. We're working on trying to talk about housing people who are chronically homeless. I would much rather see that $100,000 be spent on eviction prevention for the 17% and the 25% of children that live under the poverty. I also wanted to come today to speak about our violent police. I hear that this, that's probably my phone, I apologize. So I understand that the police chief is leaving, thank you so much, is leaving because he's tired of all the flack he's getting from the community. And yet Patrick's killer was never brought to justice. I watched that, and that was murder and nothing less than murder. And so instead of this city coming away with some justice was served, what we are coming away with now is watching someone be shot in the back underneath of a police officer. I especially appreciated the last person that spoke, and she spoke about something that is we should be thinking about when it comes to making reforms in our police department here. I wanted to also, because there is such a thing as for-profit prisons, and the incentive to catch people is more important than letting the courts do justice. I also want to say no more dogs. It is like slave patrols in this city. You're going to be mauled by a dog whether you're innocent or whether you're guilty, instead of letting the courts handle it. A dog in Indiana that bites someone is put down, and those dogs should be put down and never allowed. That man was on the ground before that dog ever hit him. I want no more dogs eating people's faces in the name of justice in this town. And I want no more, if you don't want people being mad about it and hollering on the streets, stop it. Let them have their First Amendment rights and stop throwing them in jail.
Hello, my name is Allison Donahue. I am the program manager of The Rapidian, which is Grand Rapids' nonprofit, hyper-local, and most importantly, community-powered newsroom here in Grand Rapids. We're also a part of the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. Through The Rapidian, we work with community reporters and our Grand Rapids documenters who are residents trained and paid to attend public meetings like the one we're at here today. I believe we have a documenter covering this meeting, but I don't know if she's doing it virtually or not. They take notes and share what's going on to increase transparency and civic engagement here in Grand Rapids. I'm here this afternoon. It's not typical for a journalist to be up speaking during public comment, but it's Sunshine Week here in the U.S. March 15 through 21, Sunshine Week is a national nonpartisan effort that brings attention to the importance of open government and access to public records. But more than that, it's a reminder that transparency isn't just a value that we talk about, but it's something that people rely on every day. I've heard the word transparency come up many times just in this one public comment section. In Grand Rapids, we're lucky to have residents who care deeply about what's happening in this city. We see through our documenters people who show up after work, sit through long meetings, ask questions, and help make local government more understandable and accessible to their neighbors. But access shouldn't depend on who has the time, resources, or knowledge to navigate the system. Transparency means making it easy for residents to find information, understand decisions, and see how and why those decisions are made, It means clear communication, timely access to public records, and processes that don't feel confusing or out of reach. It also means recognizing that trust is built through consistency. When information is easy to access and understand, people feel more connected to their local government and more confident participating in it. At the Rapidian, we think of this as part of building a stronger local information ecosystem where residents aren't just consumers of information, but active participants. One of our goals at the Rapidian is to help make Grand Rapids the most civically informed and engaged city in the country, and I think that's a goal that we both share. To make that possible, transparency in government is key. So during Sunshine Week, I want to acknowledge the role that each of you play in transparency here in Grand Rapids and encourage continued efforts to make public information more accessible, more understandable, and more usable for the people here in Grand Rapids. Because at the end of the day, transparency isn't just about access to information, it's about making sure people feel empowered, informed, included, and able to engage with the decisions that shape their city. Thank you.
Hi, I'm up here as another mother in support of Daquan Trey Johnson's mother and his family. There's been a lot of talk, and I support all the people who have already been up here, but I would like to read a quote by James Baldwin that I really think means a lot. The children are always ours, every single one of them, all over the globe, and I am beginning to suspect that whoever is incapable of recognizing this may be incapable of morality. And I think every public official here and the Grand Rapids Police Department really needs to look into their own moralities or lack of morality, and there needs to be justice.
Hello, my name is Shannon. I live in the 3rd Ward. I'm here to add my voice to those who are asking for justice for Daquan Trey Johnson and to ask that the unedited body cam footage be released, that the autopsy be released, for more transparency in this case, and for accountability for the GRPD in general. As someone else mentioned earlier, it's pointless to point out past improvements when it clearly isn't making a difference for people that are still getting shot in the street. Furthermore, the city manager mentioned efforts to increase de-escalation, which obviously have failed because the GRPD not only fail to de-escalate at every turn, they tend to escalate and outright panic, even at the very mention of a gun. This is not how a police force should act. It's not like this in other cities of our size. And it's clear that the police don't serve the public. It seems obvious that they don't answer to you either. The GRPD seems to only serve themselves and corporate interests. The police is overfunded, which is changeable. This commission constantly bemoans its lack of power to make changes. That is also changeable. And I think that everyone here is sick of the excuses of the weak mayor system and waiting for reports and analytics. Even if we do have a weak mayor system, the board sitting here today has more influence and power than most of the people in this room. So we want you to make changes that are not minute and tiny and ineffective. The police need to be held accountable in real, tangible ways. They need to be held accountable to the public. They need to be controlled by the community. And we need to have more transparency in how the police is investigated and funded and disciplined. Thank you for your time.
Mark back. Well, we all know who's behind all this. All you had to do was turn on your TV every night and see the one individual who's controlling this. Nobody but the orange felon. He gave cops 100% full immunity. He's given himself 100% full immunity. This shouldn't have happened. Y'all could have done one thing. You should have voted. Because without voting, laws would have never changed. This is why we're here today. Now, with this crummy SAVE Act, they're talking about voter ID. That's a smokescreen. We all know what this is about. Power and control. They want people to have a passport, which is well over $200, and a birth certificate, which is around $20. That's called a poll tax, which is illegal in this country. And with the midterms coming up, this is what he wants. He wants less people to go out and vote, and he wants to make it difficult for anybody who can't afford those items not to vote. But we can remedy that. Vote and vote early. And the rural areas, I'm gonna tell you something right now. Unless you have a vehicle, your process is much more harder. This is what happens when you voted bad individuals in these leadership positions, and now you're effing around and you're finding out. Thank you. Revenge 2026.
Hello, Russell Olmsted, Westside Grand Rapids. I just wanted to, as a member of the Civilian Appeals Board, I want to echo our chair's comments earlier as far as applauding steps being taken as far as looking at recommendations that have been brought forth, but recommendations as well from the community that have been talking about this since the board's founding in the mid-90s. Commissioner Perdue, I'd like to thank you for your leadership from the dais on this as well as Director Brandon Davis of OPA for his leadership on bringing these as well as countless community groups that have been a part of trying to push for reforms to CAB and the Civilian Appeals Board and the process around accountability for such a long time. So I applaud you for bringing this forward. I look forward to reading through the recommendations, or reading through the report, pardon me. And I just encourage as well, when we're looking at things and talking about things as far as best practices, that we realize, admit to ourselves that public safety is not something that only exists inside of the United States, and that there are best practices that we can be looking at the world over as far as public safety and things that we haven't adapted here. And when we're looking at things around best practices when it comes towards using canine units, there are examples that we can look to outside of the United States for that type of data as well to inform us. So don't just be constrained by the system that all of us seem to have a problem with, and look for expertise outside of that system as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly, Third Ward. I live in Heritage Hill, and I love it. I love living here. I love this city. But the one thing I don't love is that I'm not proud to live here, and that's because of the police violence. GR is put on the map nationally, globally, for police murder. And what's worse is it's not just those things, but it's for a lack of accountability and lack of justice for those things, which makes them exponentially worse, unfortunately. So I just want you to know that's something we're really put on the map for, and that makes me sad because I love living here. I do want to say thank you for the movement to review and kind of address the K-9 policy. Like, I've heard that and heard that be talked about, but I also agree with who just spoke that we could do better and look outside of just the town next door. So I agree with that. I also want to thank you for mentioning that there will be community involvement and insight and impact with choosing the new police chief. I think that's encouraging, and I hope that actually happens. I'll be definitely looking out for that. And I just want to mention and echo everyone else that we want justice. The lack of transparency for a month is a long time for a mom to not have justice, a whole community to not have any answers at all. That's kind of egregious. So I just wanted to mention that. I get that these things are complicated. Obviously, there's restrictions, but it's unconscionable and it's too long. And a mother at least deserves answers, if not the public. So I just, want to echo the calls for justice and to name, fire, arrest, and convict the killer cops. Thank you.
Seeing no other public comment, I will turn to my colleagues. Commissioner Belcheck.
Thank you, Mayor. Literally scrambling as I write as he calls on me. I want to address something right off the bat. I am often called on first, and I don't think it's intentional. It just happens. And I've got pages of thoughts and notes and paying attention, and I want to say now, I can't possibly address everything without having thought through it. So I hear people's calls for commissioners to be specific, concrete, actionable, and still in the moment. So I'm just putting that out there. Like, I can't possibly have all my thoughts straight after hearing all of you. And I think that's true of anyone up here. So I will do my best and say what I can say. I am thinking about things, and I am hearing you, and I am sorry. I'm so sorry that for so long, so much of our community doesn't feel heard. Doesn't feel heard in ways that translate into more trauma. Translate into ways that feels like trust can never be had again. That transparency isn't a real thing. That no matter what we do, say, don't do, what officers do, don't say, don't do, what the community says, does, doesn't do, nothing's going to ever be different. And I hear you when you say, I don't want to hear about past stuff. I want to hear about what you're going to do now. What's going to happen next? And any good decision doesn't come in the moment of emotion. We have to think. We have to slow down. We have to hear you. So I really appreciate that this just all happens to be Sunshine Week. Didn't know that, Allison. Thank you for sharing that. I heard someone say that I heard several of you say, we need a system that's human and dignified and creates some sort of sense of justice. And I wonder, we need to define that for each other. We have a justice system. It isn't the city commission. There is a process. It's not what we want because it's not fast and you're in pain. We're all in pain. We want to be quick. We want answers now. And I agree with you. If Mrs. Johnson was still here, I wish I could give her my condolences and big hug. I know that it's not satisfying for you to hear me or any one of us up here saying, we can't do anything this second. And it won't take away the pain. And it won't solve the sorrow. We need a system. And I keep hearing that. And we have a system. So I'm so sorry that we're tired, that we don't feel heard. I've heard so many beautiful words, so much heartfelt passion, so much identification of patterns of felt injustice. And I think Erica said it well when she said, in order to address what the community, the Black community is feeling and the police, we need to get to the root of the problem. Because there's problems. There's problems probably in places we don't even see yet. And again, I'm sorry, I'm flipping pages here. There's so much here that I feel like there's also opportunity to correct the record, which also fits in Sunshine Week, because I think there's a lot of information and ideas that aren't quite accurate. And again, if we're gonna make good decisions, we have to have accuracy. So we can't discuss all these things in one moment. It can't be done all right here. So I'm going to, at least in this moment, offer that if anyone wants to stay after, we will sit in this room and we will talk and we will listen, and I will stay until I have to go home for another board meeting. And that's my action right now that I can do. And we can start talking more at a deeper level that we can't do when we're up here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you, City Manager, for starting our meeting with some updates from where we left off last commission meeting, where we left with a few very specific asks. Great to see that there's some progress on that. So thank you. And thank you all for coming again. And I wish that there were more opportunities to come together to celebrate, but here we are. So I want to call out one thing that wasn't mentioned today that I think is really important part of the conversation around what we do next, right? The action item that we do next. We currently do not have a permanent city attorney yet. We have an interim city attorney while we are beginning the hiring process. We were briefed on who those 3 finalists will be today. And at the end of March, on the 30th and 31st, there will be a community forum and then public interviews. So I bring this up because the city attorney is such an important part of how we work as a city, how we work with our court systems, our justice system, and every single department ranging from parks to PD to planning. And so I wanted to make sure that you all were all aware that that is happening. And just as some folks mentioned, wanting to engage in the search for our next permanent police chief, that you also see the connection between the city attorney search as well and what that means for your cause for justice. I'll also share that at this point in the process, particularly related to Daquan's killing and the investigation, is that I'm not privy to any information that you are not privy to at the moment. I haven't seen any videos. I'm not privy to any information that you all do not have. I'm looking forward to when the Michigan State Police is done with their part of the investigation, and our Kent County prosecutor makes their decision, and then the city will then have the opportunity to start our own investigation process. This is the same process and standard with any kind of incident that happens. And so I just wanted to make that clear because folks have been asking me questions that make me think and wonder if you think that I am privy to additional information. So I am waiting patiently and impatiently to get that same information as well. And then we'll have the conversations that we need to have then. The last thing I would say is, I think someone said today that, where is the outrage? Where is the outrage? I just want to remind us all that people show their outrage differently. People show their pain and their grief and their rage differently. And I think that's certainly true for me. I take this seat really seriously, this position. I know that the decisions that we make truly affect people's lives and their well-being, the future of them and their families. And so every meeting we have, every conversation we have, I come prepared. I come with the full care and concern for this community. I come with my full range of professional and personal experiences to move our conversation forward. I'll continue to keep doing that. I'll continue to keep doing that. So I think I heard the call to say, hey, what have you heard from us? And what are you going to do? I think what I'm most looking forward to is the action items that I put on the table last time related to our policy review. And we heard from city manager that those will be reported back out on, I think, March, April, and May and June were the months that I heard. And so I'm really looking forward to that as well. So I hear you all. I see you all. I share much of your pain. I share much of your frustration. I'm committed to action. I know sometimes you want to hear more from us, but I am focused every time we leave. I also take notes. What did I hear? What can I take forward? So in addition to what I mentioned about the 3 policies related to our public safety and policing work, Hal, I've been hearing you loud and clear on parking signs downtown. I agree with you. I know where everything is because I grew up here, but if it's your first time coming downtown, particularly when we have new events, that we need to make sure people can find their way and make sure that residents downtown and throughout the neighborhoods are prepared for what that traffic might mean to them. I used to time how long it took me to get downtown from home. It used to be like 7 minutes, and now it's a lot more during rush hour. So I hear you loud and clear on that. I hear tons of questions on Brownfield as well and the incentives that we use for the city, and I am right there with you. I have been saying for years, let's not allow folks to take our vote for granted, and let's make sure that as we are leveraging what we have as a city, our policy tools, our incentive tools, that we're also asking for much back in return to our community in the form of affordability, in the form of jobs, in the form of community investment, and I'll continue to do that. One related piece on that conversation, we've been allowing incentives for many years, right? As those incentives sunset, as we begin to collect those taxes back, what are we doing with those? I don't want them to just disappear in our general fund. I want to make sure that we are investing those smartly and intentionally. And so, again, those are some things that I heard that you all bring up. Those are things that I'm actively thinking about, actively talking with my colleagues here of how might we look at our policies, how might we influence state policy to make sure that we can truly have equitable economic development in our city, and we can truly create a place where everybody not just feels safe, but is safe. Them and their entire family are safe. So I thank you all for coming today, and I look forward to our next time. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the community members who really were intentional and made the time during a work day. I understand that it is a challenge for many neighbors to come to city commission meetings, especially when it's midday. And that leads me to think of we had a really good this past, I believe that was Friday, where I had coffee with Commissioner at Hub 07. A few dozen folks came out speaking directly about what community members raised today, and I really appreciated that. My commitment remains the same as a member of public safety and this body to review our practices, see what the data shows us, what that review shows us, and to make balanced and measured decisions moving forward. And I'm looking forward to doing that on the behalf of our community. And I think that's our job now, is to, the prosecutor has, I think, from my understanding, asked for more information. So that still, we haven't gotten that from that side from the Michigan State Police and the prosecutor. So I'm looking forward to, as a community, is seeing where that gets us. But I think what I continue to hear is people don't want to hear what we can't do, but what we can. And I'm hearing a good commitment from city staff, and I'm committed to reviewing those policies and seeing if we have best practices in place and what we can do better. I think I often say to folks, no one is really against police. I think people are against brutality, corruption, things like that. No one is saying there should not be a police department that came to my coffee hour. It was about, can people feel like it's truly public safety and supported? It's a part of our community's overall health. So it's an important conversation. I think it's one that will continue and that we need to continue to have. And I really appreciate the voices that we've heard today and that I heard at my coffee hour and we continue to hear. We also had some good conversations, and another conversation that I continue to bring up, I sort of seem like a broken record sometimes, with data centers, where I was able to give some of our community partners feedback on making sure, just as the city presents its work and we have our data, our AI council forming, and they're working really hard to make sure we are using the most science-based, community-based practices as we do this work. And I'm going to continue to give that feedback to all community partners who are doing work with this emerging technology. Data centers aren't new, but we need to be keenly aware of their impact on our region, our state, and our country overall. Just as folks deserve safety within our communities, I deeply believe that we deserve access to clean water, to not an overuse of sound, to not in over-the-top increased energy rates when we already can't afford our bills. That's what I'm fighting for, and I'm so thankful that we are taking, as we should with all important things in the city, a balanced and measured approach to this. So it's been these shorter days are always still pretty jam-packed. I say that every time. There's still a lot of work that we were able to do, and I'm thankful that the community is doing that alongside us. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to echo some of the sentiments that my colleagues have shared already, so there's no sense in me to continue to repeat that. But we do appreciate everyone coming out and sharing their thoughts and their heart and their pain and any other thing that impacts them, because it impacts all of us. And so we're grateful for that. I just want to make sure that a lot of times we talk about things that we think is just centered here in the city, but the city sits within the county. And the county has opportunities and the availability to make changes in this community that impact us all, even on a much more broader sense. And so I just want to make sure that we're thinking about that as we look at what we do here in the city, and that we don't operate separately all the time, but there are a lot of things that happen there that we have no control over or can't direct as the same as here in the city. But I think as a city, especially when I think about, the housing, right? This has been a conversation that doesn't just impact our city. This is a national crisis that we're talking about all the time. But what sat well with me a week ago, we were at a conference in Lansing, and I heard a developer from Detroit speak about some of the work that they were doing there and how they were jealous of Grand Rapids. And those were the words that he used. And so it speaks to some of the work and the changes that we're doing here locally. Is it perfect? Nothing ever is. But are we trying to do the best work that we can for this community? I think we've got a head start on what a lot of people are doing across our state and across the country. But there's always more work to do. There's always opportunities to continue to change. There's always opportunities to continue to step back and see if we're doing the best work possible. And if we make a mistake or it's not a good fit, then being able to step back and correct that. And I think that's what I like, is that everything is not necessarily written in stone. There's opportunity for change. And so continuing to use your voice for that change, we listen. We do hear. I appreciate Commissioner Perdue talking about how we all share or express our pain. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to use the tools that I have to address things a little bit differently in ways that other people may not be able to help create change and to help people here in this community. And all of us have a gift and a skill set, and we all use those very differently. But I think as we continue to work using those tools that we each have, those specific gifts and skill sets that we have to impact the things that are happening within our community is really important. We weren't all created the same. We're not clones of one another. We're all very different. But I appreciate those differences coming together so that we can do better for each other.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon, and thank you, colleagues, for your comments. We've now all been working together as this iteration of commission for the last year and a half, 2 years? No, year and a half now, not quite, yeah. Okay, thank you, sorry. And we're starting to get to know each other more, which is really important because, as Commissioner Perdue said, we have a lot of important choices in front of us, whether it be from different hiring that you mentioned, things that we may not, to me, leadership is not always about the actual thing that you have authority over, but it's how you use your influence, how you build relationships, how you exchange and communicate with one another. And even though some of us may be, a formal manager in an organization or in a leadership level, that really doesn't matter. It's like, how do we connect and communicate and influence each other that I think is more important. So first, I just wanted to pull something out, and I don't believe this is anything that the city has oversight over. But Daquan's mother talked about finding out about the autopsy via the media. I don't know why that is. I think that's horrible. If we can understand how that happened, I'd love to understand that. I mean, I'm guessing it has something to do with like freedom of information. I don't believe that has anything to do with the city of Grand Rapids, but I'd love that question to be answered. So I'd want to put that there. I want to say thank you to city staff who were actively involved with the flash flooding that occurred. We were at our MML conference last week, Tuesday, but we're getting a lot of reports from constituents and colleagues about the weather that was happening here in Grand Rapids. I think this is exactly why I was supportive over the last 6 years, and when we had to vote around the cap, really recognizing where is the city's role in our changing climate, and that, sure, we talk about electric vehicles and we talk about, sorry, Commissioner Coate, we talk about data centers. I don't talk about it as much as you do. But, the weather and our weather patterns are one of the most obvious things that the city, while we don't have control over it at all, things like, our public works, our forestry department, and making sure that we're doing the things that kind of seem a little boring, like tree pruning, and making sure our other infrastructure is solid is really important. So we received some calls from some businesses and from some neighbors, and thank you, City Manager and Mr. Matthews, for the follow-up on that. And I know we'll continue to do that follow-up, and continuing to understand what was that impact. I think it was very quick. And I know, I'm trying to think, I think, Mr. Gorney, thank you for some of the response that you and Mr. Canfield had last week for that and your teams. On commission, I think a lot of times there are specific moments, significant emotional events that occur that are defining of your time up here. But none so more for me than in the last couple of weeks as I've been helping a constituent, and full disclosure, a friend, navigate being a small-scale developer. The city of Grand Rapids has said we need, and not ourselves, but city of Grand Rapids and others, how do we have more housing? How do we incite more people to create it? A lot of times we think it's, the individual home, and then there's these really large entities. But I've been helping somebody who made an investment in their home to have some renters in their primary home. Was excited about it, the ability to build some generational wealth for themselves and their families, and are met with issue as it relates to one tenant. And it's been really sad to think that one person can yield so much emotional violence over another person. I certainly support tenants' rights, but what I have learned is our small-scale developers, first-time developers, do not have a lot of rights at all. In fact, they're often met with departments in the city who are really working to help them. So I want to say thank you, Community Development, thank you, Development Center, thank you to the Police Department for trying to answer those questions. But really, these are civil matters that occur. And so I've been kind of saying over the last I would say the last 6 months, a lot of the calls that I get into my office are not things that the city of Grand Rapids actually has a lot of control over. There are things between neighbors, there are things between landlord and renter, and they're increasingly, these civil interactions. And last week, one person lost their life. There was a gentleman by the name of, let me be very clear about that, but the report of being killed by somebody that he was renting to, and sounds like some of the issue was related to eviction. What a horrible, horrible crime. And this is, I'm not talking about everything else that has happened in the city. I'm using this one example right now. And so I'm very concerned about the escalation that has continued to be in this space, especially as we are asking people. We put a pause on our emerging developer program because of funding and just, the amount of interest. But I think we need to continue to focus on this area. I have learned so much, and I also feel very helpless to help a constituent. And I don't ever want to feel this way again. So I got, how many more months, you guys? This is 2 months so far? Okay, I got 2 years and 10 months. I will be dedicating my time and energy to make sure this does not happen to one more person. Somebody the other day told me 95% of the people you meet, Commissioner, they're out here trying to do a good job. They're out here trying to do the right thing. Sometimes they're taken advantage of. But there's 5% of people who just want to make it really hard for people. And so to the 5% who are trying to make it hard for people, no, I'm coming for you. I'm going to be working to say this shouldn't exist, because when we have these opportunities for generational wealth, people should be able to engage in it and not be worried about the destruction of their property, not be worried that they might be unable to pay for the legal fees, not be worried that they will be, traumatized via social media posts. And so this is going to be my charge. This will be my data center, Commissioner Kilgore. And again, while it's not so much of our city departments, because our city departments were there, but sort of what is that next step after the city departments? Where does it sit in the state? Where does it sit in the county? To be able to support people who are helping us to solve problems around our housing crisis. And lastly, it's St. Patrick's Day. As many of you know, soy mexicana, americana, I'm Mexican-American, but I'm really, this holiday is really important to me. One of my very good friends, Mary Alice Williams, a city commissioner who was elected by a write-in vote against an incumbent, so makes me feel like my races didn't even matter, is a proud woman of Irish heritage. And, a lot of times there's, kind of what does St. Patrick's mean? But I just want to leave us all with this, really just as an Irish saying. May you have warm words on a cold evening, a full moon on a dark night, and a road downhill all the way to your door. So thank you.
How come I always get to follow you?
You're special.
I get that. So a lot of times, here we are on Tuesdays doing city commission work, but in the next couple of months here, we have a lot of times that we're going to be outside of our normal viewing times and our normal meeting times and our normal meeting place. So just to give the community some updates what's going on, we had an update this morning at Committee of the Whole, as it was mentioned earlier, about the city attorney search and 3 finalists that were named. So on March 30th, on Monday, March 30th, there's going to be a forum here in this room from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If the community wants to submit questions, give input into what those questions look like, there is a survey on the city website to weigh in with those questions, and then attend the forum. It'll also be live streamed as well. So that's Monday, March 30th at 6 p.m. And then there'll be the interviews by the commission during the commission day on the 31st. And then if the commission needs more time, there's a special meeting that is scheduled if they need it on April 1st at 9 o'clock here in this room. But all this stuff will be live streamed. Also, the next city commission meeting in 2 weeks is March 31 will be a commission night out. It'll be at GRPS University. So go there and not here on that evening. Doors will open at 6 o'clock. We'll have resource tables, and then the meeting will start at 7 o'clock p.m. So we do that 3 times a year. We go out into each ward. So those are times that around commission night out and the city attorney position. And then the first ward city commission vacancy, as of March 6th, Commissioner Robbins is no longer a city commissioner. So the commission gave direction to put together a process for selecting that commissioner as appointing a vacancy that will fill out to the end of the year. The application time is open right now. It's open to residents of the first ward until next Tuesday, the 24th at 5 p.m. Then our office will go through and vet the candidates. And then on April 17, which is a Friday at 9 o'clock in this room, the Committee on Appointments are going to do the first round interviews with vetted candidates for that position, and then they will give a recommendation. And then on Wednesday, April 22 at 10 a.m., the City Commission will hold their final interviews and then make a selection that day, or they may have to schedule another time if they need more time. So those are all the things that are going on with the city attorney search and the first ward vacancy. So there's a lot of things going on in the next couple months, but stay tuned to the website and any other news that's going out there. But all this stuff will be live streamed, and you'll be able to watch it, of course, on our YouTube and our Facebook and Channel 26. So there's a lot of different opportunities to engage in this room or outside the room. Thank you.
City Attorney.
I'll save you all for the end of the month when you'll probably hear more from me. Thank you for including me in the finalists, but I'll reserve any of my comments and ideas for that forum. Thank you.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the staff for the work that they've done for this meeting and everything that goes on to keep our city running 24/7, 365. Thank you for all of your work. I want to also reference the report that I read earlier. It is online. You can find it in the published agenda packet. It is item 8 on report from city officers, number 3. So the third report from city officers. You can get the full report if you go online. I do also want to thank the Human Resources Department for their work in partnering with Mosaic on the selection process for city attorney. It's good to hear that we continually make progress on housing accessibility and housing development, and the combined 170 units that we had the public hearing on today. As I'm glad to see that is moving forward. I do want to echo the appreciation for the staff on the storm response. We've had a lot of inclement weather response this winter, and what I wanted to share is while we have had localized flooding in Grand Rapids, it is not just a Grand Rapids experience. This is really, statewide, but also countywide. There are other jurisdictions that also experienced localized flooding in Kentwood, Wyoming, and East Grand Rapids. It was just a pretty unprecedented amount of rainfall in a short amount of time, given the recent snow melt, and that many municipalities across the region were transitioning into some of the maintenance efforts of inlet cleaning, but did not have the luxury of time to do so. but appreciate the employees that worked overnight, all night, to both public works employees as well as our first responders, firefighters, as well as police officers who were there to keep the public roads safe, to block roadways, and to make sure there were not any serious injuries or incidents here in Grand Rapids. I also want to thank for his first official meeting as our interim chief, Chief Trigg, for stepping up and taking the challenge and the assignment to lead our department in these very sensitive times, but I'm very confident that he is the right person to help us do so, and will keep the men and women in the department motivated, encouraged to continue to serve this community. And also want to thank those who I had a chance to meet with yesterday, along with Chief Trigg. Thank you, Commissioner Womack and others who were here from the faith community, other community members who wanted to talk about some of the things we can do to continue to work together to keep our community safe, because that's the only way it's going to happen if we continue to work together. And lastly, I see that we have a real leprechaun among us in the audience. Just kidding, Fisher Womack. Those of you who will see the hat that he has on, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Thanks, everyone. So I will be brief. I do want to point out I was a little disappointed when we were talking about Sunshine Week that you didn't notice that note that we this last year passed financial disclosure for the City Commission for the first time. So I think the ground zero for public elected officials is that people should be able to know potentially who owns them as well as what they own. That's really foundational for democracy. So I'm very proud that we did that, and there's always more to do. There's always more to do to build direct lines of communication and to listen better. But that was a real move we made in the last year. I've been thinking a lot recently about and this, I'm going to sound like Mark for a minute. Been thinking a lot about our country. And I think at this point, as a country, we are sort of having a national conversation potentially about, are we just a bunch of people with stuff and we'd like to preserve our stuff and maximize our stuff? Or are we a moral agent in the world? And the United States was founded on a presumption or a dream of moral agency. That on the first words of the Declaration of Independence essentially are that people have a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And for all that we've made thousands of missteps and fallen short of the ideal, we were the country that started as idealists. And if that's true, I hope that our city can follow in and be part of a subset of that vision. And so we spend a lot of our time talking about development and projects and buildings and services. And those are all important, but it's worth noticing once in a while that they ought to be the tail and not the dog. And what we should be most about as a city, and I think that my colleagues share this vision, is that we mostly should be about trying to give and articulate and do our best to do moral work as a city. And a lot of the comments today honed in on that. The question of what does it mean to have justice in our city? How do we have justice in our city? How do we provide public safety in a way that makes everyone feel safe and served? And those are conversations we're always going to have to keep having if we're going to live as people together in a city. Those are not questions that are going to go away. The only way to make them go away is to stop living together. We're always going to have to rise to those challenges and address those issues. And I'm glad that we are reviewing and we're benchmarking some of our previous and current practices, and that's important. But it's also important that we don't just benchmark, but that we also look at what best practices are around in not just this country, but other countries, what best practices are around in the justice space. And also, ultimately, what are the best ideas? So we may have a better idea in Grand Rapids, Michigan, than anyone else in the world has had. And we have to allow for that possibility and explore it. But at the same time, I think that it's really important to recognize in this space that we want to get this right. We want to look at all of the countervailing arguments and tensions. And it's really important not to straw man, and that's to say, create a caricature of the people who you feel like oppose whatever particular part of this vision you're working on. So I hope that everyone in the city is trying to work towards a more just community and trying to do that in good faith. But I think that that's true for people who are doing the work of public safety and getting paid to do it now, too. Now, should they be held accountable? Absolutely. But our public safety officers, and specifically our police officers, are trying to provide public safety in this community. And they're doing that under the policies that this committee crafts, that this commission crafts, under the direction of the city manager. But they take an oath to try to protect and serve the population as best they can. Can we work as a community to improve that vision? I hope so, and I hope we never stop doing that. But I do not want ever to minimize or render illusory the real work of the people who are trying every day to make our community safe. And those folks deserve our respect, they deserve our consideration, and they deserve our thoughtful engagement as we try to make our city better. So that is not to say that we shouldn't all be engaged in this work. We absolutely all should, and I know that this commission is going to continue to do that work. But I also want to remember that we have hundreds of people in this community who try to go out and do the work of public safety every day. And they do that with patience and grace and fortitude and courage. And I just want to say that I appreciate that work. So thank you all.